Hello folks, welcome back to the Keep Productive YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be diving into a host of book recommendations for you. They're mainly going to be productivity books, also some career books, and they're some of my favourites. I wanted to give you some recommendations in case you're reading more at home, spending more time on that, and hopefully they'll be helpful for your self-development. Before we dive into today's video, I just wanted to thank Woven for being a sponsor. So here's a little bit more about Woven before we dive in. So folks, this month here on Keep Productive, we're sponsored by Woven. Now for those who don't know, Woven is a powerful and smart calendar application that can assist you in smart scheduling, managing your meetings and planning your week ahead. They've released some new features that can be really helpful for remote workers and people working from home, including Home View so you can get important information about each meeting and glance ahead, Zoom integration to make it easy to immediately join a video conference call, analytics so you can see and analyze how your team spend time, and iPad support so you can use Woven across all of your Apple devices. Now, as many of you guys know, I'm a user myself, and my personal favorite feature is the one-time scheduling, which allows me to batch meetings, plan podcasts, and interviews. Now, we're really grateful to have them on as a sponsor, and thanks again to Woven for sponsoring Keep Productive this month. Okie dokie, so I have 10 book recommendations for you today, and the first one is a book by Ryan Holiday. If you haven't heard of Ryan Holiday's, he writes pretty consistently about Stoic philosophy. Now, this book, The Stillness is Key, Stillness is the Key. The reason I liked it is because what it does is it takes examples of individuals, leaders in situations where they're either not under pressure or looking to take a moral route or needing a compass of some kind. And it shows you how Stoicism philosophy, whether they took it or didn't, and how that can benefit, obviously, the outcome. And it's really interesting. It talks about everything from presidents to leaders of big companies. And it's a very interesting read from that perspective. So I really enjoyed this one. Who I'd best recommend this for at the moment is for people who are looking to navigate uncertainty. I think obviously it's a very uncertain time at the moment. And this one definitely helped. I read it maybe 2 or 3 months ago now. And yeah, it definitely helped from that perspective. Okay, so number 2, and this is one by Emma Gannon. It's called the Multi-Hyphen Method. And I would recommend it more for those who are looking to start a digital career. Mainly in sort of creating and also obviously freelancing and wearing lots of different hats. What I quite like in this book is Emma addresses the sort of issue of this sort of new digital era and especially sort of titling, and that's why it's called the Multi-Hyphen Method, because when you explain what you do to someone in a digital space and you wear many different hats, it can be quite difficult. So you may have to have multiple hyphens, but it's this concept that you can have many different skills. They vary in a lot of different situations and can be quite helpful for your digital career. And it tells you how to approach working less and delivering more output. And I really enjoyed it, especially I read it maybe 2 years ago now, but it's quite good, especially because Project Keep Productive was a side project then. And some of the learnings and lessons in this book definitely helped it to steer towards more of a main job. And definitely take it away my sort of scarcity of doing that, because it can naturally be strange to do something completely new and go away from a very traditional working world. Okay, so number 3 is Principles by Ray Dalio. I did read this a fair while ago. It's a very chunky book. I'm looking to actually reread it on Audible again. But what I quite liked about Principles is that it touches on principles that Ray Dalio himself has actually pulled together from his own personal life, finance, and obviously working in a fairly big company. So he obviously brings together some great advice there. I think the thing that I took away most was how he treats his employees, how he approaches those principles in the workplace, and that's helped me. Obviously I'm not running a big team at all, just a one person plus obviously Alice who does the blog editing, and definitely helped me some good values, and if I grow that out even further, I definitely think that will help to grow with those learnings. So number 4 is Money, a User's Guide. Can't really remember the woman who wrote this book. I'll include it here. I think maybe Laura or something, and what she And well, the reason why I read this book is because I'm definitely into personal finance. I really enjoyed recently learning a lot about how pensions work. I'm a bit of a weirdo, like interested in how mortgages work and things like that. I like learning the figures and how to actually not to beat the system, but really take advantage. For example, like learning in this book and also outside of this book with reading that if you attack your mortgage early on, it can definitely take tens of thousands off your interest payments in about 30 years. But it's very interesting to obviously understand that and go through that. But this book is really great, particularly for people who are looking to start saving, also to take advantage of the money that they may have saved, also to start learning about how they can take advantage of personal finance. Obviously, this situation we're in right now is pretty stressful, and obviously you may not have money coming out of your ears in this situation completely naturally. But I guess learning about personal finance and being able to take that forward for after could potentially help you in the next situation. Obviously, that's totally uncertain at this time, but I definitely think learning about personal finance can really bolster you. I believe this one is mainly for English readers, but there is a lot of reference to general budgeting and personal projections on your finance. Okay, so number 5 is Company of One by Paul Jarvis. I really enjoyed this book. This is probably the book that I'd say changed the way that I've worked over the last 5 years. The reason it did is because it helped me to embrace and move forward with an approach of a one-person company, quite literally. Obviously, we've got Alice who does the blog editing, but from a perspective of keeping lean, keeping focused on really things that can improve your company, versus necessarily just growing it for growing its sake. This is something that I definitely saw a lot of when I was in the startup spaces. We need to hire lots more people because we need to hit a hiring target. We need to raise money because this is something that everyone else does. But I think those days are over, and I think that these sort of values that Paul talks about, that you can run your company very lean and profitable versus necessarily raising and waiting for profit to come, is very much a reality coming soon. What I liked about it in this book, and I particularly tried to pay attention to it, is taking a skeleton of something like what I do now and looking to improve it. So I'm actually looking to do a very much an overview and continue to enhance what I already do instead of necessarily adding too many extra things to it to maybe necessarily make it harder to approach the market. So it's very an interesting approach to business, and I think it's very good even if you're a small to medium-sized company. It doesn't mean you have to fire everyone tomorrow. It's just that sort of mindset that will help you to grow, but internally in an effective way. Okay, so number 6, and this is one that always gets a controversial sort of talk around it. It's 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Now, I personally really enjoyed this book. I sort of don't really listen to all the other stuff that he talks about. I listen to some of his university lectures, more on the topic of, more stoicism sort of topics. But I quite like 12 Rules for Life because it approached responsibility, and I especially think for young men this book could be quite important. For me, I think I had a small amount of responsibility, and it's only just enhanced that. Even the lessons and the sort of fables in it and the stories in it that teach you about responsibility and how to really take that on board can really help you to move forward and embrace any sort of past that you have. So I really like this book. I think it's a fantastic read, especially for a lot of people struggling out there and looking to take more responsibility in their life. Okay, so number 7 is a cheesy one. It's by a chap called Aubrey Marcus, I think his name is. And it's called Own Your Day, Own Your Life. And although it's a very cheesy title, I actually found it very interesting. The audiobook's very good. Obviously, he reads it himself. And it's everything from fitness to health to your sort of routine. And what I quite like about that is it gives you really actionable tips at the end of every chapter on how to go and apply that every single day. It doesn't rush you throughout the book either, and it really introduces some really healthy routines and habits to embrace. I'm actually rereading it again at the moment because I think that some of the things that he talks about, for example, in the mornings, trying to get outside, seeing the sun, starts off your circadian rhythm, very interesting. And I think I'll continue to learn from the book as time goes on. Number 8 is a book by Mark Manson. It's called Everything is... ... But it's about the concept of hope, and obviously the understanding that you think everything is very much in a difficult situation. It's probably a very relevant book right now, but it talks about how to approach uncertainty in a very proactive way, and ways to embrace it and take it on board. And it's a very interesting read. So number 9 is Let My People Go Surfing, and this is written by the Patagonia founder. Can't remember his name, but essentially it's a book about how he treats his company. It's actually got, I say, 2 layers to it. The company side of it, if you're learning about how to, the best ways to run a company, good values and good sort of ways to treat people around you, including making sure you get that work balance life right, but also how to how the sort of companies work in terms of clothing, and how that industry works. And it's definitely helped me take another approach. I think I definitely was last year traveling for traveling's sake, and that book definitely has helped me to understand whether I should necessarily be travelling as often. But of course, you may need to travel definitely for some reason, but naturally, for work, it might not be entirely necessary. But very interesting. Some of the focus on environmental, effects, and also how they approached it is super interesting. So number 10, and our final recommendation, is one called Digital Minimalism. This is by Cal Newport. You don't know who Cal Newport is. He wrote a fantastic book called Deep Work. It's a classic. It's about how to sort of produce these blocks of time that might be helpful for working on a project uninterrupted. Now, what I quite like about digital minimalism is probably very effective right now, is it aims to try and take away unnecessary use of tools, and also bring you back to being more present. Now, I'm not 100% digital minimalism at all, but I definitely have a lot of factors that I do take away from this book, especially like trying to reduce your amount of social media browsing. Definitely recently I've been on it a lot more, obvious reasons, the news, Twitter, just uncertainty in general, but I think this book is probably good maybe even to reread during this period of time, because you can understand where and how you can be better with handling that. So folks, before we go, I'm reading this one by Nir Eyal, Indistractable it's called. Very interesting so far, and a lot of scientific approaches to being distracted and also control of your attention, which is very, very interesting. So I will be continuing to read that and probably let you know when I've finished it. Okie dokie, folks, I just want to say a big thank you to Woven for sponsoring. Do check them out in the description below. But thank you very much to stopping by. Comment below with your recommendations of books that I should check out, maybe add to my Audible. I think I have a couple of credits in my Audible, so do send them over, and of course I'll check them out. But thank you very much, folks. I hope you enjoy these reads. Make sure to have a great week, keep productive, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheerio.